Hi, I'm Mark Junker, General Director of Opera Idaho, and I'm talking today with Erin Armstrong, who is our stage director for Acis Galatea, upcoming this weekend performances at the Egyptian Theater, and Karim Sulayman, who is our tenor, who has one of the two title roles of Acis. So Erin, question for you first. This is your first time here in Boise with us at Opera Idaho, but you work with Robert Franz quite a bit in Windsor, Ontario. Is what we're going to see in this performance similar to the kind of projects you do there? And semi-stage, and tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. In Windsor, because we work with the orchestra is always featured, so the orchestra is always on stage. So as we were kind of going back and forth with the semi-stage concept for this opera, we decided actually after I arrived, which is fun, that we would also put the orchestra on stage. I think originally we weren't certain if they would fit, right? And so that meant that the audience also gets to see the orchestra featured, which is cool, and then the action will happen in front of the orchestra or downstage of the orchestra for the singers, which does create some challenges for the singers because generally in an opera you can put a window in your mind right where the conductor is and you can sing to them when you need to connect with them. But in this case, the singers all have to be a little bit more aware as they're trying to catch a hint of a wave from somewhere behind them. Luckily, at the Egyptian Theater, we have these cool wings, which allows a little bit more ease for the singers to catch Robert.
I mean, Karim, from your perspective, being one of those singers, is that different for you, or are you more used to concert versions of things?
I think in this setting, Baroque music can really feel like chamber music, so it's easy to connect even if you're not glued to a conductor. It's easy to connect with sound, and actually having the players on stage is nice in a way because our sounds can bounce off theirs more easily.
Sure, and this being a collaborative event, it's nice that the orchestra gets seen a little more, although to be truthful, they get seen at the Egyptian Theater, whether they're in our quote, pit unquote, or not. This is not your first time in Boise. You actually collaborated with us. I mean,
yes.
It was Opera Idaho collaborating with the Boise Philharmonic in 2011. You sang
Candide. I sang Candide, the title role of Candide in the Candide Suite, which is sort of like a shortened version of Candide, sort of the hits.
And that was Boise Philharmonic, and that was concert more even than
that was definitely like a concert.
This is semi-stage, so people move around in this, yes?
That's right, yeah. And we have, one of the things that I tried to do was pull the elements of the Baroque style and kind of give like a hint or a nod to what you would see in a fully staged Baroque show. So we have, elements and hints of like the pastoral themes and
but it is updated in setting to.
It is modern, and it takes place in an art studio at Boise State University.
Good.
So that's fun. Yeah. That's fun.
Lots of paint involved.
Yes. Yes.
Certainly, the style of singing in Baroque is different than most opera that our patrons are used to listening to. And have you had to make a switch? You pretty much sing not completely Baroque.
No, I do a lot of Baroque music, but
what differs when you sing Baroque?
I think it's more, rather than addressing sort of like what you do differently with your voice, because I don't like to think of things that way, it's more of a style thing and an awareness of sort of like a stress and release. And in Baroque music, I think specifically text sort of takes center stage with all of it, and so making sure that you're really communicating text and not necessarily constant stream of sound like you would be in a bel canto opera.
And that's true. And this is in English.
Yes.
We do have titles, because even sometimes in English it's hard to understand singers.
Well, and in this case too, in the Baroque style, there's lots of repeated text. Because traditionally, since there were no microphones, it gave the audiences chances to actually make sure they heard what was happening on stage. But in this case now, you get to see a lot of subtext that comes through for singers.
And getting back to your earlier point, the orchestra plays more alone by itself in this than in most operas of any other period. And so what do you do with those people when they're on stage and the orchestra is just introducing for a long time, which happens?
Right, and there's usually quite a bit at the end of the arias as well, so you'll notice if you're paying attention in the audience that's when we do a lot of entrance and exits and things like that. Especially because we will be using the Egyptian Theater, the house. A lot of the the entrances and exits will come through the audience, which is always fun. So
Yes.
that we're making use of the longer interludes there, so
I would say,
they can get on stage.
are there other adaptations you've had to make because of the Egyptian theater? It's an unusual size stage. We've got the wings and there's no backstage. What have you adapted through the audience, obviously some?
That's right. I mean, I think that's really it, because normally when I was originally conceiving of the production in my mind, you kind of track chorus and leads, as you go through and you listen and you look at your score, and I imagine them leaving a certain direction, usually stage right or stage left. But in this case, when I arrived and I saw the space and when I learned that there can be no cold air that comes on stage because of the instruments, I was like, well, it all has to go into the house. That means that we're using the downstage stairs as sort of doors into the art studio. It works totally fine, and it's great. And I think the only other thing that is adapted there are just the sense that we have these wings too, instead of just a straight stage, which is what I was originally also conceiving. So
I do want to talk before we're done, Karim, about your Grammy Award for the Best Classical Solo Vocal Album, Songs of Orpheus with Apollo's Fire, which is Cleveland-based, yes?
Yes.
And a more true Baroque orchestra in the sense that they use Baroque instruments.
Yeah, they are a period band for sure. Gut strings, tunings, according to whatever composer, whatever era,
And the concept of the album is?
It's based on the Orpheus myth, and sort of pulls from different composers that dedicated major works to the myth of Orpheus, but sort of retells the story, but also towards the end of the album kind of brings a modern sensibility of psychology and analysis to the story, and how we can move out of mythology and into real life with all of it, but still using those composers.
And this opera has those elements of mythology that we're not used to seeing in Verismo opera or even operas of later Mozart. So how will we know who's who?
well, the surtitles are going to make it very clear
Okay.
at the beginning, and then also it's pretty easy to tell because they sing, Galatea sings my Acis, and you clearly know.
No, but I mean in the sense of who has godly powers and who doesn't.
Oh, I see. Okay, so in this, because we are making it modern, what I have done, Galatea sings, thus I exert my powers divine. But I translated it in my mind to, she's a painter, and so she creates an immortal capturing of Acis, which is not the same as having actual divine power, unless you conceive that it is, because it's a gift, right? So you could go either way with it, really. It's up to you.
We'll leave that up to the audience.
Yes.
Thanks, both of you, for your time today, and we hope to see you all at Acis and Galatea this weekend. Thank you.